You already know the witch. The beautiful, dangerous woman alone on her island with her potions and her wand, who welcomes tired sailors to her table, drugs their wine and turns them into pigs. She is the temptress on the road home. The seductress the hero has to survive. The trap dressed up as a lovely woman, and the lesson is supposed to be simple. Beware the beautiful stranger who offers you a cup, because the beautiful stranger is a monster, and the men who drink are lost. Her name has even become a kind of shorthand for it. Circe, the byword for the enchantress, the witch, the woman whose charm is a weapon. But open the actual Odyssey, the poem she comes from, and read what really happens on that island, and the story runs its engine in the exact opposite direction, and it turns on a single fact the seductress version very quietly deletes. Of everyone Odysseus meets on his entire 10-year voyage home, every god, every monster, every king, Circe, the so-called witch, is the one who tells him the truth. She is the one who sits him down and hands him the map. She does not trap him on the road home. She is the reason there is a road home at all. So before you file her away as the beautiful danger the hero has to get past, I want you to sit with the shape of what actually happens after that famous scene, because the shape is everything. Yes, she turns his men into pigs, but look at who those men were, and look at what she does next, and look, above all, at what she gives him before he leaves. Because after the wand and the drug, she does not kill them and she does not keep them. She changes them back, and then she shelters the whole ragged crew for a full year, and then, when it is time to go, she does the single most important thing anyone does for Odysseus in the entire poem. She tells him, item by item, exactly how to survive the rest of the sea. The size of that gift tells you something. Nobody who simply wanted a hero destroyed hands him the one map that gets him home. I'm the myth keeper, and I have stood on the shore of her island in the old stories. Watch the smoke rise from her house in the forest. Watch the tame wolves and lions move around it like nothing was wrong. And watched a witch that the world calls a monster do the kindest, most useful thing done for anyone in that whole long poem. And I can tell you the seductress you were sold is a warning label slapped over one of the most important allies in all of myth. The tellers we lean on here are a few, and they do not all feel the same way about her. Homer gives us the oldest and fullest version in the Odyssey in the 10th book, where she is dangerous and then indispensable. Hesiod in his Theogony gives us her blood. She is no mortal hag but a goddess, daughter of the sun. And then, generations later, come the other hands. Roman poets, Ovid among them and the readers after them, who slowly painted her darker and crueler until only the witch was left. They diverge, and I am going to flag it every time they part ways, because the myth-keeper doesn't lie to you. But underneath, the costume they draped on her sits the same stubborn shape. This was never simply the story of a temptress a clever man escaped. It is the story of the one who told him the truth. So let's go back to who she actually is, which is not a wand and not a cup, but a bloodline older than either. Circe is not a mortal hag brewing evil in the woods. She is a goddess. Her father is Helios, the sun himself, the god who drives his burning chariot across the whole sky and sees everything under it. Her mother is Circe, a nymph of the deep, a daughter of ocean. She is divine on every side. Her brother is Aedes, the king who guards the golden fleece at the far edge of the world, and her sister is Pasiphae, a queen of Crete. This is a family of powerful, uncanny, sun-touched beings, and Circe is one of them, and she is something else, something first. She is the first witch in all of Western literature. The very first woman in the written record who works her will through herbs and song and knowledge. When later ages picture a witch at all, they are picturing something that starts here with her. But notice what that word actually meant at the root before the centuries loaded it with fear. Homer shows her at a great loom, weaving and singing in a clear, immortal voice. She is a maker, and more than that, she is a knower. Her real power is not seduction, it is knowledge. She knows the herbs and what each one does. She knows the sea and the roads across it. She knows the way down to the land of the dead, which almost no one living knows. She knows what is coming. That is what witch meant here at the beginning. Not wicked, one who knows. Now watch what actually happens when Odysseus and his men wash up on her island, worn to nothing, already gutted by earlier horrors on the voyage, hungry and frightened and grieving friends they have lost. Odysseus sends a scouting party inland, and they find her house in a forest clearing, with those strangely gentle wolves and lions padding around it. Inside, Circe is at her loom singing, and she does not fall on them or curse them. She opens her doors and she welcomes them and she seats them and she sets out a feast, cheese and barley and honey and pale wine, and the men fall on it. Every man but one crowds to the table and gorges. Only Eurylochus hangs back at the door suspicious, and so only Eurylochus is left to tell the tale. The rest are thinking with their stomachs, grabbing, gulping, lost in the food. And into that wine she has stirred her drug, and she touches them with her wand, and they become swine. Bristled, grunting, herded into a pen. But Homer is careful, precise, deliberate about one detail, and the whole meaning hangs on it. Inside those pig bodies their minds are still their own. They know what they have become. This is the moment everyone remembers, and almost everyone remembers it wrong. Stop and ask the question the seductress version never lets you ask. Why pigs, not stones, not birds, not lions, pigs? The animal of appetite. The creature that eats without a thought, that lives for the trough, that grabs and gulps and knows nothing but its own hunger. And these were men who had just thrown themselves at a stranger's table thinking only of their bellies, grabbing the food, forgetting where they were and what they had lost. Circe does not conjure something foreign to them and stamp it on. She takes what is already there, the grasping, thoughtless appetite, and she makes the outside match the inside. The transformation is a mirror. It shows the men in the shape of their bodies exactly what they were already being. And here is the word sitting at the center of all of it, the word the Greeks used for what she pours, pharmakon. And pharmakon does not mean one thing. It means drug, and it means poison, and it means remedy all at once in a single word. A pharmakon is the thing that can harm or heal depending entirely on the hand that holds it and the measure it is given. That word is Circe. She is not simply the poison, and she is not simply the cure. She is both, held in one person, and which one she becomes for you depends entirely on how you come to her. So Odysseus goes to save his men, and on the forest path a god meets him. Hermes, the messenger, stops him and presses into his hand a herb. Moly, the poets call it, a plant with a black root and a milk-white flower, hard for mortal hands to dig, that will make him proof against her drug. And notice what the hero's protection actually is. It is not a sword and it is not muscle. It is a plant. Herb knowledge, the very same kind of power Circe herself commands, handed to him so he can meet her as an equal. He reaches her house and he drinks and he does not change. And when he draws his sword on her, she does not fight. She reels back because she knows at once what it means that a man could resist her. She remembers an old prophecy that told her such a man would come. And the whole encounter turns, right there, from a duel into a bargain. She swears a great binding oath to do him no more harm, and then she changes his men back. And Homer will not let you miss the detail. They come back not merely human again, but younger than before and taller and handsomer than they had been. She does not just undo the damage, she improves them. That is not what a monster does at the moment she is beaten. And then comes the thing the seductress version has no room for at all. Circe does not trap them, she hosts them. For one whole year Odysseus and his crew stay on her island, feasting and resting and healing, safe under her roof, until it is the men themselves who finally come and say it is time to go home. And when Odysseus asks her to keep her oath and send him on his way, she does the single most important thing anyone does for him in the entire poem. She tells him the truth about the road ahead, all of it, even the parts that are terrible to say. First she tells him the hardest thing of all, that before he can ever go home, he must go down. He must sail to the very edge of the world and cross into the land of the dead, and there call up the ghost of a blind prophet who alone can tell him the way home. No living man wants to hear that he must visit the dead. She says it anyway, and then she tells him exactly how. How to get there, what to bring, what rites to perform, how to speak to the shades and hold them back and let the one he needs come near. She is the one who charts the descent and the way back up out of it. Without Circe, there is no journey to the dead, and without that journey, Odysseus never learns the way home. And when he returns from the land of the dead, she is waiting for him on the shore, and she finishes the map. One by one, she names the dangers still lying between him and home, and tells him precisely how to live through each. She warns him of the Sirens and how to pass them unharmed. That is one item on her list, and their own strange story is for another day, so I will only say she is the reason his ship survives them. She warns him of the terrible narrow strait, the twin horror of a snatching many-headed monster on one cliff and a devouring whirlpool below the other, and she gives him the grim, honest counsel no one wants to give, that he must steer close to the monster and lose a few men to it, rather than risk the whirlpool and lose them all. And she warns him, most gravely of all, of the island where the cattle of the sun graze, her own father's sacred herds, and she tells him plainly, "Leave them untouched, whatever your hunger, or you will lose your ship and every man aboard it." She hands him the exact knowledge that could bring every remaining life safely home. That it is not, in the end, enough is not her failing. His men slaughter the sun's cattle anyway, against her warning and against his, when he is asleep and cannot stop them, and they pay the exact price she foretold. She told them the truth. They did not listen. That is a very different thing from a witch who lures men to their ruin. That is a guide whose guidance was ignored. So let me hold the two of them up beside each other now, the way this channel always does, because the gap between them is the entire point. The Circe we inherited is a seductress. She is the beautiful witch, the temptress on the island, the danger dressed as a woman, the obstacle the clever hero outwits and escapes. She is easy. You look at her with her wand and her cup and her pigs, and you know at once what the lesson is, and it is a comfortable lesson. Beware the alluring woman, distrust the one who offers you something. The female who has power over men is a trap you survive. It never once asks you to notice that she is the only figure in the whole poem who tells the hero the truth. The real one is not a trap. She is a goddess and a teacher, and in the plain text of the oldest source, the hero's single most important ally. She turns grasping men into the swine they were already acting like, and then makes them human again, better than before. She shelters them a year. She charts the road down to the dead and back up that no one else could chart. She names every danger between them and home. Odysseus does not survive the voyage in spite of Circe. He survives it because of her. The screen made her the beautiful danger on the road home. The oldest layer of the story made her the reason there is a road home. Those are not the same character. They are not even close. And here I owe you the honesty this whole channel runs on, because I can feel this tipping toward turning her into a flawless heroine, and the sources will not let me pretend. The first honest thing, she is not simple, and Homer does not pretend she is. She does drug those men and pen them as animals. That happens, it is real, it is frightening, and I am not going to wave it away. In the oldest telling, she is dangerous before she is generous, and the help comes only after Odysseus, armed with a god's herb and a drawn sword, has met her power with power of his own. She is a goddess with the ability to unmake a man, and that is not nothing. What I am telling you is not that she is harmless. It is that harmless was never the choice on offer. The choice the tradition faced was between remembering a monster and remembering an ally who happened also to be powerful, and it chose, over and over, to keep the monster. The second honest thing, and you can actually watch this one happen across the centuries. The darkening of Circe is real, and I want to be clear about which parts are Homer and which are the later hands. In Homer she is complex, dangerous, and then indispensable, a goddess who tests a man and then saves him. But later tellers reached for her and would not leave her there. Roman poets, Ovid chief among them, retold her crueler and more capricious, a jealous sorceress who transforms rivals out of spite, the witch of the later imagination. And medieval and then Victorian readers pushed her further still, into the pure temptress, the cautionary female, the danger and nothing but. The Circe most people carry around in their heads is not Homer's Circe at all. She is a portrait painted over the original by many later hands, each generation flattening a powerful, knowing, helpful goddess a little more into the one thing it was most comfortable calling a woman with power. A witch, a warning. And where I read her as an ally more than a villain, understand that I am reading Homer closely, but it is a reading. It is my best guess at the shape under the oldest text, and you deserve to know I am reading her with Homer's eyes and not with Ovid's. Because that is the question this myth will not stop asking if you let it. Why is Circe remembered as the witch and not as the guide? Look at the raw facts of it, stripped of everything we were trained to expect from a beautiful woman alone with power. On that island was one figure with knowledge no one else in the poem had. Of herbs, of the sea, of the road to the dead, of every danger that lay ahead. And she used that knowledge in the end to keep a lost stranger and his men alive and to send them home. And yet it is her cup and her wand and her pigs that we remember, and the map she drew that we forget. That is not an accident. Somebody across a long line of tellers decided which Circe to keep. And when you ask what all those later versions had in common, the answer is a pattern old as the hills. Circe is a woman. Circe has power. Circe has knowledge. She is, remember, the first which ever written down, the very origin of the image. And over and over and over, the woman who has power and knowledge gets remembered not as the wise one, not as the helper, but as the danger. The word witch itself does that work. It takes a woman who knows things and turns her knowing into a threat. Call her a seductress, and you never have to reckon with her as a teacher. Call her a witch, and her wisdom becomes something to survive instead of something to thank. And that, in the end, is the thing I want you to carry back out with you. We are very quick, all of us, to look at the woman who knows too much and see a danger. To call her a witch, a temptress, a trap, and to feel a little safer for having sorted her into that box. It is a comfortable instinct. It saves us from the harder thing underneath. But the oldest version of Circe keeps asking it anyway. How often is the witch in the stories you inherited simply a woman who knew things other people did not, and used what she knew to help, and got remembered as the danger for it? How often does the one who actually drew the map get erased, while the one frightening scene gets told and retold forever? We remember the pigs. We remember the cup and the wand and the beautiful, dangerous woman on the lonely island. And we forget almost entirely that she is the one who told the hero the truth, who charted the road through the dead and back, who named every danger and sent him home. The seductress on the road home was, the whole time, the reason there was a road home. It is right there in the oldest telling, in plain sight under the label. Look at what the witch actually did. Then ask yourself why we only ever remember the pigs. So here is what I honestly want to know down in the comments, and I will be reading them. First, the simple one. Before today, had you ever thought of Circe as Odysseus's most important ally, the one who drew his map home, or was she always just the witch who turned men into pigs, the beautiful danger on the island to you? Be honest, because most of us were only ever taught the pigs. And then the harder one, the one I keep turning over in my own head, how do you read her now? A seductress the hero had to survive, or the wise goddess who kept him alive, or, most unsettling of all, are both of those true at exactly the same time? Tell me down below. And tell me which mask you would like me to pull off next. I'm the Myth Keeper. This whole channel is about the gods and the monsters you think you know, and the far older, far more complicated ones the real stories actually wrote down, waiting underneath the costumes that later tellers draped over them. So come back up to Olympus, and out to the islands past its edge with me again soon. There are a great many names up here that the world quietly traded for a single, easy word. and not one of them is ever quite the villain you were told.